Good morning, Santa Clarita, and welcome to Aging with Power, sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care. I am your host, Myles McNamara, and our show focuses on the challenges and the topics that we face on this journey that we call aging. We begin aging from the moment we take our first breath, and although our show will primarily focus on adult and senior issues, we will from time to time visit areas of the entire aging spectrum, from the womb to the tomb, cradle to the grave, pediatrics to geriatrics. You come up with your own phrase, whatever you want to do. Our subject matter experts will address concerns and questions to empower us to make informed decisions. If you ever have a question during the show, we'd love you to call on in and go live with us, 661-298-5487. Again, 661-298-5487. You can join us on air, or if you're the shy type, you can just relay your question to Justin, our sound engineer. Say good morning, Justin.
Good morning.
And he will forward it to us, and we will still address it because, after all, preparation is knowledge, and knowledge is power. We have a great show in store for you today. I'm calling it the hospital journey. Nobody likes to go to the hospital, but when you do, all you have to do is walk through the waiting room of any hospital and see the deer in the headlights look of the folks that are there, either on their own or with a loved one. And today in studio, I'm probably nearing 100 years of combined experience from the ladies of Henry Mayo from the Case Management Department. I have with us today Kim Pointer, RN. She's the Director of Case Management. Susan Salkeld, RN Case Manager. Elizabeth Tarantini, LCSW Social Worker. And Ajala Harris, an MSW social worker. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming out to play on Aging with Power. But again, folks, just the journey that we take through the hospital, I can speak from experience. So these ladies are going to talk to us about a myriad of topics of what you may or may not face if you're in the hospital, if you have a loved one in the hospital, anywhere from case management to discharge planning to social work, the whole 9 yards. So again, great show in store for you. But before we get rolling, I do have a couple of announcements to make. Coming up at Henry Mayo, actually, this Saturday, May 7th, is something called Knowledge is Power. I'll let him use my tagline. Knowledge is Power, Aging with Dignity Symposium. It's basically the annual Caregiver Resource Day put on by our Santa Clarita Valley Senior Center. It's from 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at the Henry Mayo Education Building. If you just got off the bus in Santa Clarita, don't know where that is, that's at 23845 McBean Parkway. It's also referred to sometimes as the Facey Building, but it's 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. It's all the resources that are available to you as a family caregiver. Sometimes we don't even give ourselves that title. We don't realize we are that person. But if you are providing care on any level for a loved one, a friend, a spouse, you are a caregiver. You are a family caregiver. And we've put price tags on that in the past. If you put a dollar figure on the unpaid family caregiving that goes on in this nation, it is in excess of $40 billion with a B dollars. So our keynote speaker is somebody I kind of know, Jane McNamara. She's an elder law attorney, and she's the keynote speaker going on at about 9:45, I believe. Yes, and she's going to be discussing changes in the law affecting seniors. So again, that's this Saturday, May 7th, 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. There is a fee, $10. Will get you all the program materials, lunch, meals being served. After Jane speaks around 11:30, there's going to be a panel discussion open to our attendees that we're going to be talking about end-of-life issues. We're going to be talking about other resources, palliative care, and it'll be sort of an open forum question and answer type thing. So again, folks, put that on your calendar this Saturday, 9 a.m. at the Henry Mayo Education Building. We're going to take our first break, and then when we come back, we are going to be talking with the ladies of Henry Mayo, all things case management, discharge planning. Real quick shout out, if it worked, to my dad. We have a new listener in Northern California. I try to teach him how to stream live and listen on the hometownstation.com website. So over there, Paul, good morning. But anyway, Taking our first break. We'll be right back. You are listening to Aging with Power on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to Aging with Power. I'm Myles McNamara on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. If you're just joining us, you're late. Shame on you, but just kidding. Today we are talking about the hospital journey. What happens should you or a loved one go into the hospital? And I've got Kim Pointage, Susan Sawkell, Elizabeth Tarantini and Ajale Harris, who are, again, as I said earlier, combined almost 100 years of experience in case management, social work, and case discharge planning. And again, Kim, we'll start with you. Kim is our Director of Case Management at Henry Mayo Hospital. Again, welcome, Kim. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of let's segue into what is case management.
Okay. Well, I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse 37 years this month. I started out as a diploma nurse, then got a bachelor's in nursing, and then finally a master's in nursing. I've done all types of nursing in that time. My favorites are oncology, home health, and of course, case management. So what is case management in the hospital? A lot of people really don't understand that. They've heard of social work, of course, but not always case managers. So case management is really making sure that from the time the patient enters the hospital until they go home, that they're in the right place, at the right time, receiving the right care, and I always like to add with the right resources. And I think during this time that we all talk, we will cover all of those subjects.
And when someone comes to the hospital, they're assigned someone right out the gate? Is that their person?
Yes, we have an RN case manager in our emergency room. Once a patient is in a bed within the hospital, then that unit has case managers and social workers assigned to it. As long as that patient is on that unit, then that's their person. If they transfer to a different unit, for example, they go from the ICU to a med-surg bed, then they are going to change case managers and social workers.
And it is the role of a discharge planner and a case manager sometimes combined?
In our hospital, we have both. So we have the RN case manager looking more at the medical necessity and why the patient needs to be there. And the discharge planner is looking more at what happens and where does the patient go or what do they need when they leave the hospital.
So what's the map, if you will, when someone's first admitted through the ER or if they just come in basically through the ER? I'm sure there's probably a standard template map that you guys have, or I'm sure it's not from the hip every time, or is it just predicated off what the doctor's telling you? How is that journey first mapped out?
It's always individualized based on the needs of that patient. And the physician we say they have the power of the pen. We can plan and work with our physicians, and we do that all day. However, they have to actually give us a medical order because we are nurses. We cannot write those orders.
And just kind of a side question is because I know there's different insurances and what happens. I mean, obviously, if it's something traumatic happens, they go to the nearest ER. But now it's a Kaiser patient that comes in through your ER, and obviously you're going to stabilize them, but they're not going to stay with you, are they?
That's a very good question. Sometimes they will stay with us. We always notify Kaiser if we have a Kaiser patient. They may want them to transfer to one of their facilities, and then again, they may ask us to go ahead and care for their patient.
Okay, so it's not immediate. I always had the impression that once they're there, you stabilize them, and then they're off to Panorama City.
Not exactly.
Not exactly. All right, so what is then, and I guess we'll kind of shift it over to you now, Susan, because RN case manager, but you're also a discharge planner, is that correct? Or you stay on the case management side?
I'm RN case manager.
Okay, so who does the discharge planning?
My discharge planner.
Okay, and we don't have one of those in the house, do
No,
we?
not today.
Okay,
No.
well then you're going to have to wear that hat for us.
Okay.
Okay, so kind of segueing off of what Kim was talking about. So you're the case manager. You're that person's person now.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so then what is your role as far as assigning? And I know we'll get to Elizabeth and Ajale in a minute regarding the social work aspect of things. So how do you now start to put the puzzles together?
Well, when they come on my floor, I have a face sheet, which it gives me a lot of their information, their insurance, their age, their addresses. So I go in and see the patient. I make sure they have medical necessity for admission, for that they're on the correct floor, that they meet criteria for my floor, don't need a higher level or anything. Once I look at their chart, I do also go speak to the patient about discharge planning to find out what their discharge plan was prior to admission and what their discharge plan might be when they're ready for discharge. It can be completely different. It can be the same. They could be going home to that same discharge plan, or they may end up needing a different discharge plan if they can't provide the level of care that they need at home after they're hospitalized. So we interface, when my discharge planner and I work together, we interface together to determine what their discharge needs are and how we can meet them.
Okay, and I know everyone hates to bring this topic up, but I mean, how guided are you by the whole insurance process?
I'm guided by the physician and the care of the patient. Yes, the patient has insurance, and I do have to interface with the insurance company to let them know what we're doing. But the physician drives the case. It's the physician who will drive the case, the physician who determines the level of care that they need, who determines whether or not they're ready for discharge. The insurance companies can't tell us the patient's ready for discharge. They can try to tell us that, but the physician is ultimately responsible for that patient. And if he says the patient's ready for discharge, he'll write the discharge order, not the insurance company.
That's the point I wanted to make, is the medical aspect comes in first.
The physician drives the case. It's their responsibility.
Awesome. We're going to take our next break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation from discharge planning to case management, and also social work plays a huge part of this. And then also we'll be talking about, in addition to that, some of the discharge options when it comes to skilled nursing, rehab, that type of thing. So don't go away. You are listening to Aging with Power on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.